Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another awesome episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh. And it is your extra special La Dolce Vita Italian edition. As I am here, here at EICMA, the world's largest motorcycle trade show. And today's episode is going to be bringing you all of the newest news and all the scoops going on out here in Milan. Josh, what do you got going on in your neck of the woods today?
First off, I can tell you're in Italy and have just super easy access to the espresso there. That's pretty obvious by the intro there. To me, with EICMA going on and a bunch of bike announcements coming out, there's a couple that obviously tickled my fancy. I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to guess what style of bikes those are. So yeah, imagine that. So we'll talk about those on my two segments. What about you?
We're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna be bringing you all sorts of scoops and all sorts of cool stuff here at EICMA. We're gonna talk about your bikes that you love and the cool stuff that I found here at the show after a word from our sponsors.
There are still billions of dollars available for businesses through the Employee Retention Credit Federal Tax Credit Program. Stenson Tamaddon has helped companies with less than 500 employees retrieve over $3.4 billion in tax credits through employee retention credits. Call Stenson Tamaddon today at 866-934-8461 today to start your application. That's 866-934-8461 to apply. Call now.
And again, great job on that voiceover, Josh. Really, really nice work to your best Jacqui Van Ham impression. So, as I mentioned at the open of today's show, I am indeed here at EICMA here in Milan, Italy. You can see all sorts of people walking around behind me. I took a little bit of time yesterday when I first got here. The show, by the way, is huge. I could not stress how massive the show is. But I wanted to go ahead and grab a couple of photos of some cool stuff that kind of stood out to me, and I wanted to bring them here to today's program. As always, you can go watch all of our previous episodes out here on the internet. They live forever and ever out on YouTube and our Motorcycle Powersports News Facebook page. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I've got several different things going on, a little bit of everything, a little bit of a mishmash of cool stuff that I found here, including the very first bike on your screen. A company that I'm super not familiar with, but their booth here was awesome, and their bikes were really, really cool, including this dirt bike, gambler-y vibe. I like the brown leather seat, the big chubby tires, just a really, really cool looking bike from a company called Vent, V-E-N-T, Vent, which is based out of here in beautiful Northern Italy. So I thought that was pretty cool. Wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out on the show. This is not something that is going to be making it to the U.S. market anytime soon, but I figured we would just take a peek at it anyway. Let's see that next slide, Miss Ashley. So this, another European company who I think is really beautiful, very cool, super modern design, an e-bike company called Cake, and they are jumping into the helmet business as well with this really very cool design helmet. And I know, like, a helmet is a helmet is a helmet, right, Josh? And this is like a dirt bike helmet with a little peak on it. But if you look a little bit closer, you can see, Josh, in the very front and the sides and where the ear is, that's all like an open metal mesh. And I thought that was really interesting and a very, very different take on the helmets that I've seen floating around. I haven't really seen that before. So I definitely wanted to give them a little bit of love for their very, like, space age robotic, very, very, very function over form, or function and form marriage together, beautiful, cool e-bikes. Give them a little bit of a shout out, a little bit of feature on the show for this really very neat, cool helmet. Let's see that next slide, Miss Ashley. All right, so the folks over at Yamaha indeed released a ton of very, very cool bikes, including the bike that's on your screen right now. This is the Tracer 9GT. I was not super familiar with this bike, but woo-wee, did it have a lot of people crowded around it. Everybody was taking photos of this bike. Oh, this is the 7GT. This is the baby. So this is the 7GT. This is the slightly smaller version of the 9GT, which should be the next slide coming up. These are kind of a neat, again, this is the Yamaha Tracer. This is a cool sport tour bike. folks at Yamaha. This is the 9GT. This got a pretty big upgrade for this year. This has adaptive cruise on it. It also has a radar-linked braking system. It's got a bunch of different ride modes. It's got TFT, of course. And then the slide that we just saw before was the 7GT, which has a little bit less bells and whistles, and it's a little bit of the baby version of this 9GT. Again, this is the Tracer 9GT. I thought it just had really cool style to it. I thought it was really interesting. I love the very, very modern bags on the sides. And for once, it's not an adventure bike. Woo! Right? Like, everybody's dropping the adventure bikes at Adventure Tour. And this was something that was slightly different and more in the sport tour category. So I thought that was interesting and wanted to give that a feature on the show. And then I think we might have one more slide from the folks at Yamaha. And this I want to take a photo of and show you the cockpit of it because it was just really different. And you can see double tanks. Look at that tank system, right? It's got the double top load tanks. It's got a little mini TFT dash, and this bike is the Yamaha 710 array. This, however, is the World Raid Edition. This is European only, so I'm sorry, my American friends, we would not be seeing that on our side of the pond, but it was indeed really different with this massive tank. I thought it was kind of a rally edition. Oh no, it's one better. It's the World Raid Edition. So I wanted to go ahead and snap a picture of that cockpit as well and show it here on the program because this is an odd duck to be sure. Josh, what do you think about this first handful of bikes and things and stuff from here at EICMA?
So it's interesting. The Tracer's one that has been, it's been a European bike for decades. It's funny, right behind my computer here is an old issue of Superbike magazine, which was a UK magazine from 2000, and they talk about it actually in there. I'd get it out, but then I'd have to move the camera and everything. But it's so neat to have those types of bikes that literally it is. We've talked about this recovery of the UJM, the Universal Japanese Motorcycle, the do everything. And this is the road-focused version of that. That is, yes, go out, do everything, haul everything, do it comfortably, do it well, and have a whole hell of a lot of fun doing it. Love seeing those.
Yeah, I believe it. It does look like a really good time, and I thought it just had really good style to it. I love all those upgrades. Very, very flashy, really, really interesting. So I just wanted to go ahead and give it a shout out. And like I said, it was covered in people yesterday. It was a huge, big deal here. So I wanted to go ahead and snap that photo and share it here on the program. Now, what do you got going on for your first story today, Josh?
So from about, the past 4 or 5 months, there has been people talking about when's Honda going to do the adventure middleweight? Well, of course, EICMA might be the right time to release that, and they did. So Honda has now come back out with the Transalp 750. This is an interesting bike from the way they've done it. And as you look at this photo, if you remember the original Transalp, there's a friend of mine that actually has one that he bought brand new 30 years ago and still has it. When you look at it, there is some of that harkening back to that retro styling, but in terms of the styling is kind of where it stops. This is a 755cc, 90 horsepower inline twin. It uses Honda's Unicam head that they've basically started with the 450 CRF. Once again, help bring that weight down, make that more compact, things of that nature. So the frame is a steel diamond-shaped frame. I found that very interesting that they went that route. It is 10% lighter than the CB500X. Now, the two things that I noticed when I look at this frame, and we had talked about this and maybe alluded to this when we talked about the Hornet, this frame looks very, very similar to the Hornet frame. The engine is very, very similar to the Hornet engine. So I think there's some platform sharing going on here to help keep that price down to make this a viable mid-range option. I really like seeing that. One thing I did question, there is not a removable subframe on this. The subframe is integrated. Found that kind of interesting with that. Interested what your guys' feedback is, so leave that in the comments for us. This will carry 4.5 gallons of fuel. The suspension on this, another I see as a cost-saving measure on this, is only preload adjustable. One of the advantages that we get out of some of this, though, is this thing tips the scales at only 458 pounds, which for an inline twin like this, to me, is right in that range. We've got 8.3 inches of ground clearance. This does use a 21-inch front, 18-inch rear, so the tire options are there for whatever road or non-road that you want to go on. Spoked wheels, they are a tube-type wheel. Another thing that I found interesting with this is throttle by wire, but there is not cruise control. So we're wondering, there's a number of us that have talked about this already when we saw this come out, where we have a question about that. There are 5 ride modes that are pre-programmed in. There is a 5th ride mode that is customizable, so that way you can make it, hey, my gravel road or I'm going to chuck it at the scenery one. There is an optional quick shifter option for this. So the other thing that I noticed too, and a couple of things with these, is there is the hugger fender with this. And when they showed their crash bar option on this, those crash bars go straight to the engine, because it appears to me very much that the engine on this is a stressed member of this and an integral member of this too. So when I combine all those, and as I look at this, I've already heard people talking about, oh my God, this is kind of a disappointment. This isn't the hardcore off-road machine. To me, I think Honda is making the right decisions here. Honda saying, look, we aren't all Paul Taurus or Chris Birch. Let's make something that's very capable off-road, but will be a little more comfortable and a little less expensive. The pricing on it, none of us have any idea, but everyone is estimating that we're probably going to be around 10 grand. I know you had the option to get up close and stick your hands on this thing. What are your thoughts on this one, Jacqui?
Well, yes, but no. Actually, this has been a real barn burner here at the show. No big surprise. It's great.
No.
It's a beautiful bike in the retro livery. This blue and white scheme is just really, really very cool. You could not get close to the blue and white paint schemes ones. They were all up on daises, and they all had girls in outfits sitting on them. So no, unfortunately, you could not get close to this bike, which was such a bummer. But it does photograph great. I do love a lot of the things that you mentioned, and especially the fact that they're keeping it at this really super competitive, aggressive price point. This has a lot of bells and whistles that are very competitive, like with the BMW 850 GS, and especially as far as power is concerned, they make very, very similar power, but this is a way, way more affordable option. And it just looks really, really sharp. This is also coming in an available murdered out version. They did have that here at the show. It is black on gray. Very, very dark, but it's way better looking in this super traditional retro color.
I like that one the best.
And they had the Transalp sitting next to it to like really drive the references home. So it was just a really neat display, really, really cool to see. And you're right, people were really looking forward to this. There was a lot of anticipation of this bike for sure.
So what do you got next for us there?
Okay, so my next handful of bikes and things and stuff, these are my favorite Things Special Show Edition here in Italy. All of the pizza, all of the gelato, and seeing all of the motorcycles. It truly is a dream come true. My next handful of machines up here are some more cool stuff that I saw while I was wandering around the past 2 days at EICMA in Milan, Italy. Ashley, go ahead and throw that first slide up. We'll go ahead and check it out. So the Royal Enfield folks have a huge presence here at the show. They had a big corral outside where you could test ride their bikes, and then their booth inside was massive. And a lot of the showgoers thought it was probably, if not one of the coolest and best booths here at the entire show, which is saying an awful lot. This is a ton of cool stuff. They featured several machines that were part of an in-house special custom bike build contest that went on, including this very cool machine that's on your screen right now. I love this all-alloy back-fared edition, streamlined edition, partially streamlined edition. I thought this was just very, very slick and very cool. I had to grab a shot of that. They, of course, also launched, and I did not get a photo of it, they also launched their 650 Meteor. The 350 Meteor has been a really, really big seller for them, especially in overseas, and particularly in overseas markets. And they went ahead and doubled down, and they made the bigger version available as well. And I'm sure that that is absolutely intended for the U.S. market. So there will be a 650 Meteor, which is their cruiser, coming to the U.S. market as well. Now, let's see the next slide. So, another bike that was revealed that I thought was really interesting, and Josh and I have talked about this several times on the show, is this Honda electric moped. This is going to be the Honda EM1, EM standing for electric moped. Super creative naming going on over there. The EM1, this is the first e-moped from the folks at Honda. There is hardly any details going on with this bike, except for the fact that we know that it is part of the swappable battery situation that is going to be going on with the folks at Honda. They did release that this is going to have a 25-mile range and top speed at 28 miles per hour. I've been really looking forward to this. Josh and I both are big fans of the idea of swappable battery tech. I think this has a lot of potential. It is really, really very interesting, and it looks cool to boot. I was really, really excited to see this live and in person. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the Honda Transalp featured up on the dais. This is the new 750 Honda Transalp that everybody has been waiting for, with girls sitting on the bike up on the dais. It is a very EICMA thing. It's how they do here. But this is, I just want to go ahead and throw that in here. I know, Josh, you talked about it in your segment, but let's get another gander at that live and in person. Just a beautiful bike. You can really see the size and the scale of this bike with this young lady sitting on it, and that huge 21-inch front wheel. This does mean the business. I mean, maybe it's not going to do Dakar anytime soon, but I would definitely go play in the dirt on that bike, absolutely. And then I think I've got one or two more slides going on. If you want to throw that up there, Ashley. There we go. Another bike that Josh and I have been kind of talking about off camera, we've been definitely looking forward to. This is the brand new, just launched this week here at EICMA. This is the CL500. If you are a Honda geek, like Josh and I are, you know CL is code language in the Wayback Machine for Scrambler. They launched this bike. Before the launch, they were talking about 500 coming out. They did mention that this is going to be a retro-style bike. Honestly, I'm not really getting very much of that vibe with this version coming out, but it still is cool. I don't blame them for jumping into the Scrambler scene, right? Everybody's doing it. Everybody's making it. Ducati crushes with it. So, you know, why not make a little bit smaller displacement Scrambler on their own? It still is cool. It still is a neat, cool thing. I like that side-swept high pipe on it. I do like that double fender situation on the front end. It is cool. I'm not in love with it. I wish it would have gone a little bit harder into the retro space, but it still is a cool, neat thing, and it's something new from the folks over at Honda. And is that it? Is that my final slide, Ashley, or is there anything else going on? Okay, so that's it. That's it for some of my favorite things here at the Big Bike Show here at EICMA. It has been a fantastic 2 days full of really awesome stuff and parts and everything you can imagine is here. This is the world's largest motorcycle trade show. I am really, really happy to be here and get some of these sneak peeks and get some of these live and in-person shots and see these bikes and eat all of the pizza and all of the gelato.
I can't blame you. It's interesting. I mean, we talked about that Scrambler before. And that, to me, I think Honda's got that. We talked about the platform sharing between the Transalp and the Hornet. And this is another one where, hey, we've already got this Rebel. Let's restyle this a little bit. We'll appeal to a different audience, a younger audience. Once again, this is this universal in-town motorcycle that people can hop on. They can go to the coffee shop and maybe go get an IPA afterwards. I joked. To me, it's once again, it fills a little bit of a niche, and it shares a ton of parts with other bikes. I think that's a great one too.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you just made. You know, this is for all intents and purposes a Rebel Scrambler. And
Yep.
so, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Rebel is a great I was almost going to say little bike, but it's not, because the 1100 Rebel is here. It's not just a little bike. They do all sorts of sizes now. I like that they added this to like this portfolio of Rebel bikes. I could have lived, however, without it being called the CL 500, because in my mind that means it should have been way more retro. But still neat, still cool. Not going to ding it. It's just something different for folks that are in that Rebel space. Okay, so what you got going on for your second story today?
So everyone was expecting the Transalp. That is the one where, hey, this is the build-up. I mean, there were spy shots. We talked about it a few weeks ago. No one was expecting what happened next when Suzuki brought out the V-Strom 800DE. This is that thing where Suzuki, and I'm one, and you guys know I have my DRZ 400, where every year I get to look forward to bold new graphics. Those of you that have V-Stroms kind of get that same vibe. The fact that Suzuki finally came out with a parallel twin, to me, is an interesting move, and I think it's one that they finally needed to make. Some of the specs on this is a 776cc, 82 horsepower, 12.8 to 1 compression, and 270-degree parallel twin. That was a mouthful. I need to breathe now. So that, to me, is one of the great things about it. It's still going to maintain that V-twin sound, much more compact. We've got quite a bit more gumption than what we had with the 650 V-Strom, but not a whole heck of a lot more weight. This is a steel frame. I mentioned this too. This has the bolt-on subframe in case you decide to send it and it doesn't come back. On this, the other thing that I found that was kind of interesting too, they went with fully adjustable Showa suspension on this. This has, I found an interesting choice, a 21-inch front and a 17-inch rear on that. So you're a little bit more limited in tire options, but there's also the adventure version of it, which comes with the crash bars. You can get the optional luggage, and this has some added specs to it, such as the skid plate, that make it a little more off-roadable. This has a 6-speed with a quick shifter. There is a 5.3-gallon fuel tank, so a little bit larger. This also uses ride-by-wire. It has 3 traction modes, 3 rider modes, but as I mentioned with the Transalp, no cruise control. A bunch of us were talking, we're not quite sure why ride-by-wire isn't including cruise control on it. Who knows? It'll probably be in an update. I'm interested to see that. This also has a 5-inch color TFT display that Suzuki's using on other bikes, and similar, that use a similar engine, such as the 8S that they just released also. To me, I kind of want to cover, because these two seem very, I don't want to, the V-Strom 800 and the Transalp, they're similar in some ways, but they're different in other ways. I think they're different enough that they will definitely appeal to different people as they look at them, especially as you dive down into it. But there's some things that I looked at here that I found very interesting, and the dominator in this area, in this middleweight adventure, are the T7 Yamaha and the Aprilia Touareg. Those bikes have pretty well come in and dominated this space. What I find is interesting is both Suzuki and Honda has said, yep, if you want the hardcore off-road bike that does pretty well on the road, you want one of those two bikes. If you want something that's more gonna tour and still be extremely capable off-road, we've got the two bikes for you. And when you look at stuff like the smaller skid plates, the Suzuki has a little bit less ground clearance. The Suzuki is a bit heavier at 507 pounds. It uses tube-tight tires, so they're going for a little bit less expensive. They're trying to keep the cost down, but they're still trying to keep things very capable. To me, I think rather than going after someone else's lunch, they're going to find the people that don't necessarily have the exact lunch they want and serve lunch to them. I think it's a really good approach, and I think this is going to work out well for both Honda and Suzuki. I mean, if Honda and Suzuki are listening, look, we need the chance to go out and take these and run them through their paces. I'm excited to swing a leg over both of them and see what we end up with these. To me, I'm excited for what's happening in the adventure space. You guys know this is my stuff. This is my jam. when I saw these two bikes come out, I got almost as happy as Jacqui is about all the espresso she's able to consume in Italy. This is this is the good stuff. I'm excited for it. Do you agree with me on their aim with this, Jacqui, or do you have a different perspective on it?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And we have talked before about this middleweight category really coming on strong. It's been dominated by big 1100 and 1200 cc bikes forever now. And there needed to be a middle answer. There needed to be a different version of this floating around. And so now everybody is jumping in to this middleweight adventure. So it is absolutely just a grudge match out here for who is going to make the coolest with the coolest stuff, the most bells and whistles, but no cruise control, which to me seems odd, but whatever. But at the most reasonable price point. And if there's already been the V-Strom or the We-Strom floating around, and this is the next version of it, does that make this the We-Strom?
I don't know. It's kind of funny, and it's the question that it begs for me then too is obviously there's always been the 650 and the 1000. With this falling not smack dab, but darn close in between them. And it's really, it's dead in between the two power ranges of them. Does Suzuki continue the big one? I know they just revamped that last year. So I'm interested to see how that goes. It's still the V-twin where everyone's going parallels. This raises a ton of questions for the future, but the question that I want answered now is when can I ride it?
Absolutely. So feel free to holler at us, Yamaha and Honda, and let us know when we can go shred these awesome middleweight adventure bikes. They both look really great, and I think it would be a really fun head-to-head battle with both of those bikes for sure, for certain. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for today's program. All sorts of exciting new bikes going on. It is kind of my favorite time of year when everybody's launching machines. I was really, really eagerly anticipating this show in particular, especially once I heard that Intermont was kind of light this year. I really had a feeling that there was going to be some rad stuff going on here at EICMA, so I'm very, very happy to be here for multiple reasons. Grazie mille to everybody at Motorcycle Powersports News for encouraging me to come on over here and bring you some of the awesome breaking news going on out here in motorcycle land. As always, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you clicking, liking, and sharing all of our videos, and we will see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Ciao!